So, people are always talking about who would be better off if they left WWE, who would be better if they went to Impact, to AEW, to Ring of Honor, to New Japan, etc., etc. And as we're getting towards the end of the year, we have time to do a lot of these sort of list videos, shall we call them, where we do discuss people, top fives, the bottom fives, best matches of the year, etc., etc. So what I wanted to do in this video was maybe list 5 WWE superstars that potentially would be better if they left the company and went to a company like Impact Wrestling. Now, before I get into the names, of course, I know a lot of these names very unlikely, and I'm not going to go with the names, oh, Roman Reigns, he would be better in Impact Wrestling. It's ridiculous. But what I do want to highlight is maybe some of the more undervalued people, maybe some people that aren't being booked correctly in WWE currently at the moment, and who could be better off if they did go to a company like Impact Wrestling. Now, whether or not this happens, I very much doubt it, to be honest. A lot of people are still under contract for a long time, and I know some people might turn their noses up at the possibility of going to Impact Wrestling or a smaller company than WWE. I know that's the case, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, see if it worked out, and let's go into the name that potentially would be better if they moved from WWE to Impact Wrestling. And let's start off with Chad Gable. Now, Chad Gable, everyone knows the talent of a Chad Gable in WWE. Chad Gable is someone with a huge amount of pedigree. This is a guy that I think has just been, realistically, ever since he was called up to the main roster, criminally mismanaged. I think the highlight of his WWE career so far is when he was tagging with Jason Jordan from NXT American Alpha, transitioned, of course, in the main roster over to SmackDown, and they brought American Alpha over to SmackDown. Did very well. Weren't they the first ever SmackDown Tag Team Champions? And that tag team was strong, like the tag team division in NXT was very, very strong when they were in NXT. And Chad Gable was always a star that I think a lot of people thought and compared him to someone like Kurt Angle, obviously because of the Olympic pedigree. This is a guy did compete, I think, at the 2012 Olympics. Huge amateur wrestling credibility as well. A lot of people saw comparisons between him and Kurt Angle and thought, man, this guy is going to be such a success in the WWE. He is going to go on to great things. I think people always thought that potentially his size, him being a smaller guy, might be an issue that holds him back, but I think most people, myself included, thought, but his ability is so good. His ability in the ring is so strong that it's just going to carry him over any preconceptions of him being a small guy, him not being a WWE kind of person that they would invest in. And this guy, since then, has just been horribly mismanaged. And I think the worst of it has come in the last sort of 18 months or so. Obviously, they split up American Alpha. Jason Jordan was the one that became Vince McMahon, Kurt Angle's son, Vince McMahon's son. That was actually Hornswoggle in the end, wasn't it? But he was the one that eventually became Kurt Angle's son, and I think a lot of people, again, thought, why wouldn't you have Chad Gable? That makes the most sense. Nevertheless, WWE logic. He stayed on SmackDown, and then just had a variety of very strange booking decisions. Tagged up with Shelton Benjamin for a while, which I think most people thought that was a good pairing. Never took off. Didn't he tag with Robert Roode for a while? They were actually Raw Tag Team Champions for a little bit, and he copied Robert Roode's gimmick, which was odd. And then the short joke came in, right? Then he was constantly short jokes, and the reports came out that Vince McMahon wanted to call him Shorty G. Now, when those reports first came out, I must remind you, those reports came out, people laughed because they went, come on. You can't believe everything you read. He's not going to be called Shorty G, because why would you call him Shorty G? That would be the most ridiculous thing to call a pro wrestler ever. How would that get him over? Turns out they did call him Shorty G, and they called him it for a long time. Nearly a year they called Chad Gable Shorty G. The scary thing about that is legitimately, Vince McMahon in his crazy warped mind thought that was a good way of getting Chad Gable over. Was calling him Shorty G. Let's call him Shorty G. That will get him to the next level. That will get him to where we want to get him to go. Let's call him Shorty G. Madness. Absolute madness. And now I get he's the coach for Otis, but it does feel like the Shorty G gimmick is a gimmick really hard to come back from. It was that bad. And I think of someone like Chad Gable, and I don't mean to be one of those people. I know this is what this video is about, saying, oh, you need to leave and blah, blah, blah. But sometimes just there are so many bad decisions when it comes to Chad Gable in WWE, and I do look at companies like an Impact Wrestling, like an AEW, and I think to myself, if he was in Impact, that just wouldn't happen. And I know it's kind of cliche with me on the channel here saying, oh, they should go to Impact, they'd be a world champion. Most people on this list, well, in fact, everyone, maybe not one, but most people on this list, if they went to Impact Wrestling, they would be a world champion. And I think Chad Gable, without a doubt, would go to any company and would be very, very successful. Chad Gable is a huge, huge talent. Now, I don't know his contract status. I would assume he's under contract for a while, and there still potentially is a way to turn it around when it comes to Chad Gable in WWE. Him getting his name back is a start. My concern would be that it's very obvious Vince McMahon has a massive issue with the height of Chad Gable. Not that he's small. I think he's pretty much, isn't he, the same size as AJ Styles or something like that? He's not far off. So obviously, like with all of the names on this list, they could turn it around. It's just a case of if Vince McMahon's willing for that. But I think without a shadow of a doubt, if Chad Gable went to a company like Impact, he would thrive, he would succeed. And maybe it could be a case of him going to a company like Impact to show people in WWE what they're missing out on, as it were. So Chad Gable is the first name. Second name, GRAN METALIK. Now, I'm a big fan of GRAN METALIK. Actually, at the time of recording, this is on Tuesday the 29th. So last night, he actually competed on Monday Night Raw, and he won. He won. Take him off the list. He's not leaded on the list anymore. Now, he beat The Miz. And actually, his victory was kind of just a case of, roll-up victory. And actually, it was to further the storyline with The Miz and the Money in the Bank briefcase. So, GRAN METALIK is someone that I think, again, it's one of these weird situations that everyone in the company, I would say, apart from the person that matters, Vince McMahon, everyone in the company, everyone that watches, knows of the talent that this man has. For years, he was thrilling us on 205 Live. King of the ropes. In that cruiserweight division, everyone looked at him and went, man, this guy's really, really good. I don't know what the situation is with the promos. Maybe his English isn't as great as it is as, say, a Lince Dorado or a Kalisto, but still, he can work in the ring. He can be something really, really special. And he's had great matches on WWE TV too. I mentioned he had a match against The Miz last night. That was good. I remember his Intercontinental Championship match he had with AJ Styles earlier this year. It was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. He also had a match against Rey Mysterio in 2019 on Monday Night Raw. It might have been earlier this year. God, they blur into one, don't they, so quickly. But GRAN METALIK, without a shadow of a doubt, can you imagine him in Impact Wrestling? Can you imagine how great he would be in the X Division? He would be the guy that they would absolutely build that division around. He'd be a multiple-time X Division champion. Again, I don't know what the issues are in terms of maybe promos, but it doesn't matter. If you're good, you're good. And I think sometimes that's the issue when it comes to WWE is they pigeonhole people into a position that they just can't come back from in the mind of Vince McMahon. And I think that's the same issue here when it comes to GRAN METALIK. Vince McMahon's decided that they're part of this Lucha House Party stable with, or previously Kalisto, but still Lince Dorado, and he doesn't see him any higher up than that. But I think in reality, any pro wrestling fan, anyone with eyes could tell that GRAN METALIK is a phenomenal talent. He really is a phenomenal talent, and he deserves more. And I spoke about people that, is this likely to happen? Is this not likely to happen, etc. Out of probably all the names on the list, GRAN METALIK could be a guy that I could see appearing in Impact Wrestling in the case of 2-3 years' time, maybe even sooner than that. And this isn't to wish anyone's job away or anything like that, but, people like GRAN METALIK, people that are lower down on the card, when WWE has their annual putting people on the chopping block, people like GRAN METALIK's status on the card tend to go. But I think if he did go to a company like Impact Wrestling, it'd be the best thing for him. It absolutely would be the best thing for him, and I'm sure he would get booked all over Mexico as well. So GRAN METALIK, I'm a huge fan of. I really am a huge fan of. I would love to see him in the X Division face off against some of the X Division stars, and I think it'd be absolutely phenomenal to see. Let's switch to a female. Naomi. Now, Naomi, I highly doubt Naomi will leave WWE, and if she did, she would probably go to AEW, I would have thought. But Naomi is, again, such an undervalued talent, I feel, and this has been the case for a long, long time. I remember earlier this year, do you remember it? The Karaoke Showdown segment on SmackDown. It was a performance center show, and man, it was bad. It was basically all of these female superstars singing karaoke. I think they had Naomi, Lacey Evans, Tamina. It was hosted by Jey Uso. Look how much he's grown over the last year. He's gone from hosting karaoke to being part of a main event program on SmackDown. Nevertheless, after that segment, people were they'd had enough. They were crying out, Naomi deserves better, right? It trended all over the world for days on social media because people were just fed up of seeing someone with the quality of Naomi, with the caliber of Naomi, doing karaoke contests on SmackDown. It was ridiculous. And what did WWE do because of this trend? They had her appear on Miz TV the following week, and she was beat up by Lacey Evans. Oh, well done. You really gave the fans what they wanted there. People have been screaming out for Naomi to do something of substance for a long time because she's so talented. She's a former two-time SmackDown Women's Champion as well. So there have been periods of time which WWE have got behind her. They know how great she is. But for whatever reason, in recent years, they've just decided, we've got other people we'll focus on. and Naomi sits on the sideline. She doesn't do anything. Now, at the moment, of course, she is out with an injury, so it's not a case of they're not using her at the moment. She is legitimately out with an injury, but there is so much potential and talent there, and this is a star that's been with WWE 10 years, maybe even longer if you count developmental, and she's a 2-time SmackDown Women's Champion, but she should be so much more. She should be so much more, and I think of WWE being arguably having one of the best women's division in the world. I think a close rival to that is Impact Wrestling. I think Impact Wrestling absolutely has one of the best female divisions in the world. Their Knockouts division is so strong and so well booked. I think if you're going to watch Impact Wrestling and you're watching this video and you've never watched Impact Wrestling before, watch it for the Knockouts division because it's spectacular. It's absolutely one of the best things on the show. It just is. And that goes for a variety of reasons because of the way they book the talent, the opportunities they give them, multiple storylines, multiple matches, main events, just of TV specials, sometimes pay-per-view as well. Impact really do know how to book female talent. They know how to give them opportunities and put them in positions where they can absolutely thrive. And I think of Naomi, and I think she would just flourish in that space of having that opportunity, having TV main events, having pay-per-view main events, tying it up against some of the best female wrestlers in the world. Yes, as I mentioned, WWE has arguably the best women's division in the world, but if you want to go somewhere where you're actually going to work and you're actually going to be booked, Impact Wrestling might be an option for her in the future. Now, I don't suspect that she would leave WWE anytime soon. Like I said, I don't know the contractual situation, and she looks to me like a WWE for lifer as well. Of course, her husband still works there as well, in Jimmy Uso, so I feel that in the likeliness, we'll probably never see Naomi compete in a ring that isn't a WWE ring until way in the future. But I just think Naomi is the type of superstar that would absolutely thrive if she made the switch or jumped to Impact Wrestling. Let's continue. Obviously, Raw was actually last night, and another name that competed last night on Raw was Ricochet. Now, Ricochet actually lost to Mustafa Ali during last night's edition of Monday Night Raw, but he's absolutely a name that would thrive in Impact Wrestling. Ricochet, I really do sympathise and empathise with him. I do. Because this is a guy that when he came into NXT, he signed with WWE with a lot of fanfare. I know the phrase indie darling, people don't like using that, but Ricochet was a guy that competed all over the world, Lucha Underground, all over the independent scene, worked in Japan I think as well, and just thrived. He was a highlight reel. He was the perfect pro wrestler for the social media age because you would always see these clips of Ricochet, whether it's facing off against Will Ospreay or whoever, doing these crazy matches, having these crazy, unbelievable spots, stunts, flips, and all this kind of stuff. And once he signed with WWE, so many people were excited because everyone went, this guy's going to be a star. He's going to be a star because he can fly around the ring like nobody else. He's an unbelievable athlete, and he's going to make so much money because Vince McMahon's going to love him. He's got great look as well. It's just everything about him is perfection, really, of what you would look for in this modern-day pro wrestling universe. And he did that in NXT. He was a human highlight reel. He had unbelievable success, whether it's winning the North American Championship, the flip he did outside of the ring when he confronted Velveteen Dream. People still use that graphic, that gif today because it was a spectacular moment. It really was. And once he got called up to the main roster again, people were incredibly excited. This is going to be it. He's going to thrive. He's going to succeed. And he did for a little while. But like anything with these NXT stars when they go to Raw or SmackDown, what happened? Changes, non-stop changes, and the character became something completely different. Ricochet became something completely different to what he was prior to WWE. Now he was a superhero. He's a real-life superhero come to life, and he talked in these really cheesy promos that were written for him. And Ricochet isn't the strongest promo. That is the issue that would probably be the thing that you would say, actually, that's the place he needs to improve. His promo skills aren't the best, because they're not the best. But they certainly doesn't help when you're scripted these awful promos. I mean, awful promos. Some of the stuff that was written for him to say verbatim was awful. I'm going to prove that superheroes are real and they can come to life. And if you put your mind to it, you can achieve and dream anything. It was just garbage. And fans didn't react to it. And then eventually Vince McMahon soured on him. And now we have a case where Ricochet, for what? Especially throughout this year, and I know going back to people will say, well, earlier this year he competed for the WWE Championship against Brock Lesnar. He did, and he lost in 2 minutes, and he's never recovered from that since. What have we seen since then? Teamed up with Cedric Alexander in the tag team, which frankly, yes, it had potential, but tag team wrestling means nothing in WWE, so that doesn't matter. Now, then he lost to the Hurt Business about 1 million times over this year in the summer. Now he's facing Retribution where he loses every week. Enjoyed the match last night. I thought it was great. Don't care about the storyline because WWE has given us no reason to care about the storyline. Therefore, they've given us no reason to care about Ricochet. And this is a guy whose stock was so high 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and now it feels even lower than it should be. And this is a guy that you know for a fact, if he were to leave WWE and he were to go to a company like an Impact Wrestling, go back on the independent scene, work in Japan, his reputation would skyrocket all over again because he's just that talented. And he does deserve better. He does deserve to do the matches he can do and do the spots that he can do. And it just feels like in WWE, for whatever reason, like I said, he's been broken down and then built up in the image of Vince McMahon, and it's not an image that people like. And I think if he would go somewhere like Impact Wrestling, he would thrive. He would be a world champion in Impact Wrestling. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, again, I don't know the situation when it comes to Ricochet's contract. I would assume if he signed a new deal when he moved up to the main roster, which was 2019, I think it was, then he probably signed one of those big, long 5-year deals. So I don't suspect he will be leaving WWE anytime soon. But who knows? Anything is possible. Never say never in the world of pro wrestling. And finally, another WWE superstar that would thrive if he went to Impact, Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura has been a huge topic of discussion recently. He took a pinfall on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, and a bit like with Naomi when she was in the Karaoke Showdown segment earlier this year, people just had enough. People just had enough. In the same way that Ricochet was so over when he came over to the WWE, Shinsuke Nakamura's reputation was mythic when he came over. People never thought that Nakamura would sign with WWE in the first place. This is a guy made his name in Japan and was such a big New Japan star. People thought, given that he's a Japanese native and the success that he had, he would never sign with WWE because why would he? You know, just he had his comfort zone. He took a risk. He signed with WWE to much fanfare. Then his run in NXT, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. His first match he had under the WWE umbrella against Sami Zayn, NXT TakeOver, is it Dallas, in 2016? Unbelievable. One of my favourite matches I think I've seen in a long, long time. I love that match. Go back and watch it. Phenomenal. And then his run in NXT, it's superb, NXT champion. Go watch when he debuted on SmackDown as well. The response he got from the crowd, the pop he got from the crowd when the guy with the violin was out there and his classic NXT entrance with his great music, the crowd were into it. It felt like, man, we have a bona fide superstar on our hands. And for a while, he was booked okay in WWE, beat some big names, beat John Cena to qualify for the WWE Championship match at SummerSlam that year against Jinder Mahal. That was in 2017. And ever since, I think the real turning point is that WWE Championship match against AJ Styles at WrestleMania. The dream match, right? He won the Royal Rumble. So that'll be people that will critique this and they'll say, well, he hasn't been booked bad. He won the Royal Rumble. That was 2 years ago. He won the Royal Rumble match, yes, thumbs up. Because you had a star on your hands. You had someone that was insanely popular. He didn't win at WrestleMania. He didn't win the dream match against AJ Styles. It was the rematch from the Wrestle Kingdom event, and it didn't live up to expectations. Maybe because the bar was set too high. Maybe because the show was too long. There's a variety of reasons why that match probably didn't succeed to the level that people wanted it to. And then after the match, he turns heel at WrestleMania. Again, people would say, well, maybe that's a good booking. You know, that's strong. You don't have many heel turns at WrestleMania for big stars. And ever since then, once again, what happened? The changes came. The changes came. Changes to the character that got over in NXT. I wasn't totally opposed to turning him heel. I think heel Nakamura works. But then they changed the music. He didn't have the same charisma that he had in NXT. And the response that a lot of people say when it comes to Nakamura is, well, he's just happy to be there. You know, he gets paid very, very well. He goes through the motions when he wrestles. He's happy living in Florida. He surfs. He spends time with his family, his kids at school there. He's very happy and content in America. More happy and content than he was when he was in New Japan. It's a relaxed style. Yes, it's difficult being on the road when they were on the road 5 days a week, but he's happy there and he makes good money. But at this point, you do have to wonder, is it detrimental to who Shinsuke Nakamura was, his reputation in the world of pro wrestling? Again, this was a guy that was one of the biggest names in New Japan. Now he's a mid-carder in WWE at best. He's taking pinfalls on SmackDown, and he doesn't feel like this big global superstar like he did when he first signed. And it does feel like at this point that maybe he should leave WWE. Maybe he should leave WWE and go to another company, build up the reputation again, a bit like Ricochet. And get that mythos back about you. Get that reputation back at you. If Nakamura went to Impact Wrestling, it'd be a massive, massive deal. It'd be a huge deal. And he would thrive. He would be a world champion. Personally, I think if he left WWE, he'd probably go back to New Japan, or AEW would certainly be an option. But I think Nakamura, when it comes to his WWE career, is there a way back now? I don't know. I don't know if there is. I really don't know if there is. Do I subscribe to the theory that he's just content doing what he is? Partially, but he can't be happy. He must know that this isn't the Shinsuke Nakamura that came in from New Japan and came to NXT. It's not. And I do think he deserves better. So that would be another name that I think would thrive in Impact Wrestling outside of WWE. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the 5 WWE superstars that we said here should possibly move to Impact Wrestling, would be better off in Impact Wrestling? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, Impact Wrestling, AEW, all things in the world of pro wrestling here on the channel. So get involved with the community, drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get to people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.